We all saw what happened in the quiet town of IMAWEJE. Fear returns when a mysterious tree suddenly grows behind the palace. A cursed tree that appears once every 20 years, bringing death to any home it grows behind. The villagers panic as they remember the ancient rule: the chief priest must sacrifice his virgin daughter to stop the curse. But this time, the new priest, Ogedengbe, refuses. As tension rises, strange things begin to happen. Blood drips from the tree's leaves, and Komi, the narrator, starts hearing strange knocks in the night. The curse has returned, and the suffering is just beginning. Now sit tight while we dive into the next episode. If you enjoy our storylines, please do well to like, share, and subscribe to all our channels: YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok, all at The Whispering Woods. Thank you, and God bless as you do so. The king raised his hand for silence. "We all know the meaning of this," he said. "We must do as the gods commanded, or IMAWEJE will suffer." The crowd began to murmur. Everyone knew what "do as the gods commanded" meant. The chief priest shook his head slowly. "I will not give my daughter," he said. His voice was firm. The king's eyes narrowed. "Ogedengbe, if you do not, we will all pay the price." The chief priest looked him in the eye. "I have only one daughter, Adesewa. She is 17. I will not kill her for this." Gasps went through the crowd. No chief priest had ever refused before. The elders gathered quickly, talking in low voices. But even from where I stood, I could see fear in their eyes. By evening, the palace courtyard was quiet. But the tree seemed bigger than in the morning, and the drops from its leaves had grown heavier. That night, I could not sleep. I kept thinking of the stories my grandmother told me. I kept hearing her voice. If the tree grows and a sacrifice is not made, the land will suffer. And then, just before midnight, I heard the sound of something moving outside my window. It was slow, heavy, like roots dragging through the dirt. I sat up in bed. My heart was beating fast. I wanted to get up and look, but my legs refused to move. The sound stopped. For a moment, there was silence. And then, a knock. Not on my door, on my wall. 3 slow knocks. I covered my mouth so I wouldn't scream. I don't know how long I stayed frozen like that. By morning, it was lying on its side behind the palace, eyes open, mouth frozen mid-bleat, like it had seen something before it died. The news spread faster than the harmattan wind. By the time I reached the palace gates, the goat's body was still there. No wounds, no blood, just gone. The queen, Morenike, stood on the veranda, both hands pressed to her mouth. King Adepoju paced the courtyard, shouting orders to the guards. The chief priest, Ogedengbe, was there too, standing like a stubborn rock, refusing to move. I didn't go inside. None of us did. We stood outside the gate, watching, waiting, because we all knew, if the goat was the first, it would not be the last. By midday, the palace chickens were dead. The air smelled strange, like wet leaves and something rotten. People began whispering, not too loud, because they feared the tree could hear. Mama Sade, our best gossip in IMAWEJE, came to my compound that afternoon. She didn't knock, she just rushed in. "Jemima," she whispered, "the queen has fallen sick." I stared at her. "Already?" She nodded, eyes darting toward the palace. "They say she can't stand. Her legs are heavy like stone. The tree is taking her." I wanted to tell her not to speak such things, but the truth was, I believed it. That evening, the elders gathered. We all watched from a distance. The sun was setting, painting the sky deep orange, but the tree looked darker than before. It was taller. Its roots seemed to have pushed forward, closer to the palace wall. The king begged the chief priest again, "Oge Dengbe, please, do what must be done before it is too late." The chief priest didn't bow. He didn't even look at the king. He said, "I will not kill my child. Let the gods take me instead." A murmur went through the elders. Elder Gabenga, the oldest man in our town, shook his head. "It doesn't work that way. The sacrifice must be pure. It must be a virgin daughter." Ogadengba's jaw tightened. "Then let the town suffer. I will not do it." That night, IMAWEJE did not sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. It was too quiet. Even the crickets were silent. Then I heard it again, that slow, dragging sound, like roots moving across the ground. It was coming from the palace side. I stood up and peered through the small hole in my window. The moonlight was bright enough to see shapes moving near the tree, not human shapes. They were tall and thin, bending like branches in the wind. But there was no wind. One of the shapes turned, and I swear it looked at me. I fell back, hitting my head against the wall. When I opened my eyes again, it was morning, and the first thing I heard was screaming. I ran to the palace. A small crowd was already there. The queen was gone. They said she had been breathing fine when she went to sleep. By morning, she was cold. The king's face was hard as stone. He didn't cry. He didn't shout. He just looked at Ogadengbe and said, "You have killed my wife." The chief priest didn't answer. He walked past the king, past the guards, straight toward the shrine. No one dared to stop him. The queen's burial was quiet, too quiet. In IMAWEJE, even when death visits, there is singing, drumming, and the sound of people mourning together. But that day, no one sang. The only sound was the wind in the trees, and even that felt wrong. People didn't linger after the burial. They scattered fast like birds after a gunshot. Everyone knew the tree was still standing, and the danger was not over. By evening, the air in the palace was heavy, but the tension inside made my skin crawl. King Adapoju was pacing again. The king stopped pacing and faced him. "You have brought shame and death to this land. How many more must we bury before you act?" Ogadengbe's voice was calm but cold. "I have told you, Adapoju, I will not kill my child. If the gods want Adesewa, let them come for her themselves." The king's nostrils flared. "If you were not chief priest, I would have your head." That night, I couldn't sleep again. The dragging sound returned, heavier this time, like the roots were tearing through the earth. But then I heard something new. Footsteps. I peeked out of my window and saw shadows moving in the street. Not the strange bending ones from before. These were men, and they were heading toward the chief priest's compound. I followed quietly, staying far behind. The moon was bright, casting long shadows on the red earth. When they reached Ogadengbe's compound, they didn't knock. They broke the wooden gate and rushed inside. I hid behind a tree, my heart pounding so loud I was sure they could hear it. Inside, there was shouting. Then I heard a girl screaming Adesewa's voice. They dragged her out into the moonlight. Her white wrapper was loose, her hair messy, her eyes wild with fear. "Leave me!" she cried. One of the elders gripped her arm so tight she winced. Ogadengbe came running after them, swinging a staff. "You will not take her," he roared, but the men overpowered him, pushing him to the ground. Elder Gabenga stepped forward. "If you will not give her willingly, we will take her to the shrine ourselves." Just as they began to drag her away, the air changed. It became cold, too cold for an African night. And then we all heard it, a sound like wood cracking and bones breaking at the same time. It came from the direction of the palace. The men stopped moving. Everyone turned to look. In the distance, the forbidden tree moved. Its branches twisted slowly like arms stretching after a long sleep. And then The red drops from its leaves began to fall faster, hitting the ground with a sound like heavy rain. The men let go of Adesewa. No one spoke. We all just watched, frozen, as the mist around the tree thickened. Ogedengbe pulled his daughter close and glared at everyone. "You see? This is not man's fight. If you try to interfere again, the gods will not spare you." No one argued. The men backed away, disappearing into the dark. I wanted to go home, but my legs wouldn't move. The sight of that tree, the way it had turned toward us, it felt like it was watching. By morning, we learned the palace guard who had been posted near the tree overnight was dead. No wounds, no noise, just dead. And still, the tree stood, waiting. The desolation hook. By the end of that week, IMAWEJE was a ghost town. The tree still stood, but there was no laughter, no crying, only silence. The day after the palace guard's death, people stopped going near the palace completely. Even the king stayed inside. From my compound, I could see the top of the tree. It seemed taller than before, its leaves darker, almost black. But the worst part? The red drops from the leaves were falling faster now, and wherever they landed, the grass died instantly. On the third night, I was woken by frantic knocking at my door. It was Mama Sade. Her wrapper was loose, her breathing fast. "They've taken her," she whispered. I sat up. "Taken who?" She swallowed hard. "Adesewa, she's gone." The story spilled out between her gasps. Ogedengbe had gone to fetch water at dawn. When he returned, his daughter's sleeping mat was empty. No sign of struggle, no footprints, no broken doors. Just gone. Some swore they saw her walking toward the palace in the early hours, her white wrapper glowing faintly under the moonlight. Others claimed they heard soft singing coming from the direction of the tree. No one could agree, but everyone felt the same thing in their bones. The tree had taken her. By midday, Ogedengbe stood at the palace gates, calling out to the gods. His voice was raw from shouting, "If it is Adesewa you want, then bring her back here. Take me instead." The king refused to come out. No one wanted to stand near him. It was said the gods strike faster when their chosen victim is close. That night, I couldn't stay indoors. I sat outside my hut, the moon bright overhead, watching the tree in the distance. It moved again, not much, but enough to make my chest tighten. Its branches bent slightly as if leaning toward the village. The mist around it seemed thicker, almost crawling along the ground. And then I saw something. Shapes, not the bending shadow things from before. These were clearer now. They looked like people, men, women, children, all pale, all moving slowly, all walking in a circle around the tree's roots. I knew most of their faces. They were people who had died over the years, and they were smiling. By morning, the market was empty. The smell of smoke hung in the air. Some families had packed their things in the night and left. IMAWEJE was starting to die, house by house. On the fifth day, the king finally spoke to the people from the palace balcony. His voice was weak, his eyes sunken. "My people, leave this place. I can no longer protect you." No one argued. For the first time in my life, I saw the king turn his back on us. That evening, I saw Ogedengbe for the last time. He was walking alone toward the tree, carrying a calabash filled with something dark. I called out to him, but he didn't turn. He didn't come back. By nightfall, the whispers started. Some said they saw him kneel before the tree. Others claimed the tree's roots moved and swallowed him whole. On the sixth night, the silence was unbearable. Even the frogs in the stream were quiet. I sat in my hut, holding a small bag of clothes, deciding if I should leave before sunrise. And then I heard it. My name. Software whispered. It was coming from outside. I stepped to the doorway. The street was empty, but in the distance the mist around the tree was glowing faintly. And in that glow, I thought I saw Adesewa. barefoot, her white wrapper perfectly clean. Her hair was braided neatly just like before. She raised her hand and beckoned. Her lips moved, but I couldn't hear the words. Every part of me wanted to run, but my feet stayed planted. Then something shifted in her face. Her eyes, they weren't brown anymore. They were black. I stumbled back into my hut, slammed the door, and didn't move until the first rooster crowed. By sunrise, I was gone. I didn't say goodbye to anyone. There was no one left to say goodbye to. As I reached the edge of the village, I looked back one last time. The palace was silent. The market was silent. Only the tree remained, standing taller than ever, its branches swaying slowly even though there was no wind. And I swear I saw Aditsewa standing under it, still looking right at me. I turned and kept walking. I never went back to IMAWEJE. If you enjoy our storylines, please do well to like, share, and subscribe to all our channels, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok, all at The Whispering Woods. Thank you, and God bless as you do so.